So this UNLV thing, I see some people going, "What's going on with that?" I'm surprised. I mean, I guess it's been unfolding today. So this is going to be probably a big part of the show. All right, this thing has swallowed up college football in the last 12 hours of today. So I'm going to give you the best synopsis of what's happening here. All right, starts off with Matt Chaluka, quarterback of UNLV, quarterback of the 3-0 UNLV, who's looking to be primed for that a playoff spot, right? That they're one of those first four in right now. The schedule looks kind of juicy, given those circumstances, and they've got Syracuse, I believe, this week or 2 weeks from now. Writes a message today, basically saying, "Hey, I've not been given what I was promised, NIL wise. I'm out. I'm redshirting. If I play one more game, I can't do this. I'm redshirting, and I'm hitting the portal." We've talked about this, how this relates to Florida and keeping Billy on staff. So guys, don't do this. Well, this guy he's already out. He's saying his NIL deal wasn't lived up to. So that now this whole thing is unfolding, right? He says that people are going, "You're a quitter." You got one half saying, "Well, if I wasn't getting paid, I wouldn't show up to work." Then a report comes out that what happened was he hired an agent mid-season. This agent used to play ball, I believe, for Arkansas. He's 33. Why does that matter? I'll tell you in a minute. Apparently there was a conversation that they showed up to UNLV saying, "Hey, he's kicked ass. We're 3-0. I want some more moolah, baby." And they're like, "No, that's not how this works." He's like, "All right, I'm out. Peace. See you later." So then it's like, well, that's shady. Why would you ask for more money and then quit because you don't get what you want? Like that's weird. UNLV even comes out with their own statement going, "Hey, we basically confirming that, yeah, they asked for more money." Nobody knows what's going on, what's happening here. Then like a few hours later, right, everyone's arguing about who's right and wrong. Should they be doing this? Is it ruining college football? Did he quit on the team? Is he right for not showing up? The running back walks out. The running back for UNLV says, "Hey, I'm hitting the portal." His reason, he even tweeted out, was not due to NIL. He goes, "I ain't got no issues with NIL. My issue was what I was promised on the field, whether it was playing time, what have you." Quit on his team. Huge issues here. So obviously the conversation of like who's wrong, who's right, what have you. My thought process on this is we got to start at the top, right? Because this isn't the first time. This is similar to Jaden Rashada issue, and it for damn sure ain't going to be the last time. Okay? So if we look at this issue, is the fact that we have a he said she said situation is a big red circle issue with just the entire process, the entire NIL, which falls on the NCAA. We're always looking to blame somebody, right? Is the NCAA that there's too much emptiness, right? There's not enough structure here that this continues to happen. From in the article Pete Nako said, which is where I'm kind of leaning towards like, this falls on the player. But also too, there's a point where it's like the schools have been getting away with taking advantage of the players probably for a very long time, which we've known this. So I also believe that by him speaking up, him being Shula, the quarterback for UNLV, is huge because it's going to change, hopefully make a change in something. Unfortunately, he's the first one, so there's going to be consequences when you're the first guy to do it. You're wrong, but you're also probably right because you probably were screwed over. Because the conversation was, hey, he was promised $100,000 to come play at UNLV. When asked, they asked the collective who's not associated, they're connected with the UNLV, but the coaches during this interview process, during the interview with Pete Nakos, were like, "We have nothing to do with this." Said, "Look, they promised 100K, but it's like, look, we can't promise you 100K before the season starts. So you have to enroll into UNLV before we make any promises." They're right. That is correct. That doesn't mean it's not happening. That doesn't mean conversations aren't happening before they sign, right? But with that in mind, you kind of lose any ground, right? The fact is, like, you can't have these conversations before you commit to UNLV. So meaning you committed to UNLV with the idea that you would get some sort of endorsement, some sort of sponsorship, which is secondary to playing for UNLV. And I know these guys, we keep arguing that they're professional athletes or that they're pros, but in reality, they're still college athletes that have the ability to make money on the side. I know that's not how we look at it. It probably isn't like that, but logistically, that's technically what it still is. That's a mouthful. I know I just sweated and vomited a lot on everybody, but I wanted it, bro. The story has been nuts to keep up with today, and that's kind of where we're at with it right now. The running back quitting after the fact, non NIL was crazy, and before the show started, Bear, what's his name?
Bear Alexander, he redshirted for the season at USC.
And remember, Bear Alexander left Georgia to go to USC. Felt like it was a money deal, looked like a money deal, smelled like a money deal, plays there all season, is dog shit, then enters the transfer portal the beginning of this season, and then stays, which tells me there probably was another financial situation where that he was promised that he didn't receive, and now he's leaving, or he's redshirting, and says, I'm not going to play the rest of the season. For me, obviously, the big question is the quarterback a quitter, or would you show up if you weren't getting paid? For me, again, you committed to UNLV, you committed to those guys around you, you committed to that team. So it starts, that's first, and then you were getting endorsements, NIL, based on your performance, things like that. That was secondary nature to playing for the football team. And I know there's going to be people that argue to their blue in the face. It's like, look, I wouldn't show up if I wasn't getting paid either, and I don't disagree with you. I get that as well. The competitor, the dog eat dog in me, the want to play college football and kind of prove to everybody, and that they're being a bigger picture, would say, hey, just F it. It is what it is. Like, they still offered him $3,000 a month. It wasn't like they weren't going to pay him. It was just less than what he wanted. I think he's a quitter. The running back, 100%. You're quitting because you were promised to play more or what have you. That's pansy shit, in my opinion. We're not creeping. We're moving very fast into a world of like, I don't like what I'm getting, so I'm out. It's an ugly place. It's a nasty place for college football. We saw it coming, right? We always were concerned what NIL would bring up, but it's coming hard and heavy now with all of this. And hopefully, we've talked about it too on Monday, right? With coaches, I talked about the coaching situation where I feel like coaches are bending schools over with their guaranteed money. It's football season, which means it's time for you to start winning with your favorite players on and off the field. And with PrizePicks, you can do that. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. And what's special about this time of year right now is that one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you one win on PrizePicks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. So you select Caleb Williams to have more than 0.5 passing yards. Gotta get one, and you have a W. We're already halfway there. Now, some of you only need to pick 2, but I want to go 4 because when you can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. So Caleb Williams is going to be my first selection to have more than 0.5 passing yards, then Travis Hunter to have more than 79.5 yards, and then more Jackson Arnold to have 265 point yards, more than that in this week coming up. Big time weekend for football. Be sure to download the PrizePick app today and use the code Hightop and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code Hightop on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. Receive $50. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Now back to the show. And until a college kind of makes a stand of like, look, guys, we can't just keep hiring these coaches and just passing them around. It's going to become where the coaches and the players have more control, and this checks and balances kind of goes to the wayside. And if this kid, in my opinion, I think we have to make an example. And maybe he's not the one. I'm not trying to use this kid or bash this kid, but there has to be a stand because if this kid does this, goes somewhere else pretty quickly and gets a fat deal, you're going to see a lot more of it. So if you're colleges, I would say, hey, we got to come together and say we can't have this happen, or this is basically, I don't want to say it, but blackball in a sense to make it like, hey, we can't. If we showed him that it's okay, then this is going to be a lot more electric. Unfortunately, somebody like a Bear Alexander, who would be a hot commodity, I don't think people are going to turn a blind eye to him. I rambled enough. Ty, what are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so this is clear. Obviously, this is a flawed. It's a flawed system because it's new, and if everything's not going to be perfect. So everyone should understand that. So before, people I'm sure guys were getting money that we didn't know about or no one knew about, and they were getting money under the table and blah, blah, blah. Well, now it's a known thing that these guys are getting money, so it's not a big deal. But like me being the old school guy that, I would never ever quit on my team. I would go through this and I would 100% because this is the team. Like the team is surrounded by me. I am the leader of this football team. So quitting on your team in the middle of the season is not a good look for him transferring or going elsewhere or any other reason. Because if I'm a coach, I don't want someone on my team like if we don't get his money, he's just going to go. So that part of it, I think it's terrible. Now, I understand the kid wants to get paid. This kid's probably not going to make any other more money playing football than what he is right now. So that's the situation that I feel like he's in, where he's like, this is probably where I can make the most money playing football than I ever will in my entire life. So with the system being flawed like it is, I kind of understand his standpoint, but I also hate the fact that he's quitting on 92 other guys or 85 other guys that, stood behind him and like said, "You're our guy, let's go be our quarterback." So like I'm in between, but I would never ever leave my team because it's just a bad look, and it's a bad look for you in the future on top of it. Now, on the other side of it, the coaches should not be able to say, well, you get this amount of money. The coaches need to also take, they need consequences. Like you can't tell a kid, we're going to give you $100,000 and then be like, oh, we're going to give you $3,000. Just kidding. Like now that you've already signed, you're doing this. Like, so there's got to be some give and some take. And I understand his frustration, but I also wouldn't quit on my team.
Well, that's where I think, look, I think it's good that he's making a stand because there's clearly an issue, right, of over promises and nothing being delivered. So it's like somebody had to do it. Somebody had to be the guy, had to be the scapegoat. And unfortunately, it's going to be, I don't say unfortunately, this could pan out and be just fine. Like Brendan just said, Oklahoma will take him, Auburn will take him. There's plenty of schools that would love to have a good quarterback that's being successful. And like, I don't really care that you left. Like I would have left too, right? Like that's where we're at. That's why I think it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, because unlike the NFL where everyone's kind of in unison, I call it the good old boys club. Like all 32 owners are like, they see something like, yeah, that guy's not coming back. We're all in unison. Like they sit at a quick table, quick lunch, like, yep, all right, we're cool. But and so that you kind of set a standard of like, hey, y'all know what happened to him. I ain't doing that. I'm not doing that shit. That guy got blackballed, right? That's not gonna happen in college football. Callie Burba, he's our lawyer for Hightop Sports here. These are contract issues. Just sue for breach of contract unless there is no contract and you're lying. So that's a good point, right? You can play the end of the season and then go, well, hey, you promised me $100,000 and you have a massive lawsuit and you could get that plus 10 times. Problem is again, it goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning. You cannot have this conversation prior to getting there. So
also, how's it not in writing? I don't understand how you don't have that in writing. That's what I also don't get.
There is no contract. And that's right. The whole point of it is that because you can't have one. Technically, you legally, if there is a contract prior to being enrolled, both parties are in the wrong. So unless there was a contract after enrolling, which doesn't sound like there was one either, it's basically like, we agree to $100,000. This guy's got no pot to piss in. And what even the whole thing is why nothing will come of this is because it's similar to the Rashada thing where it's he said, she said, which is even worse. Well, like this should be very simple. Was there a contract? Yes. Are they in breach of it? Yes. Okay, give him his $100,000. Let's come back. Let's move on. None of that's happening, which means.
I'm sorry. So these coaches being older and wiser, they're older and wiser. They know what they're doing, like towards these kids. These kids are young. They're stupid. Like I'm getting $100,000. That guy told me I'm getting $100,000. Even though that's not the case because I have it in writing absolutely nowhere.
I don't know. I don't know if it's the coaches or the NIL, the collectives. I'm sure the coaches have a factor. Don't get this twisted. But it sounds like the conversation and the coaches are doing a good job, similar to the Rashada thing, where it's like, look, our hands are. There's a lot of maneuvering around. But yeah, I understand what you're saying too.
Yeah, I don't know.
Dave?
There's an old saying that says CYA, see ya. It's called cover your ass. So anytime that I've worked a job and I've either wanted a day off or had a complaint about something or anything, just anything, I've always sent it an email. I have never like verbally went up to somebody and said, hey, I'm having this issue. I've always sent it an email first, waited for replies because you have it on paper. You have it on paper. You have it documented. This is the thing that all these kids make a big mistake of. These people promise them they promise them the world, a Disney trip or 300K or something like that. And then words are just words. I can promise you $1 million tomorrow, Shelton, but does that mean I have to deliver it to you? Hell no. You're going to hate me for lying to you, yes, but I don't have to because I don't have it in writing. Now, if we have a contract, I sign it, you can technically go to court and sue me for $1 million. So that's where we're coming to now. Even Waters made a tweet that says we're definitely at the point in college football where contracts should be mandatory, which it should. It would at least offer clarity and accountability. That's the thing. None of these people are covering their ass. And it also makes you think like, okay, well, starting quarterback left. Now your running backs left. What's really going on there? And then you have Bear Alexander. He's redshirting. You're thinking, okay, well, what happened over at USC now? Did he see what happened at UNLV? He's like, I'm going to take the same approach. He was probably promised something. Yeah, he's probably promised something, and they didn't deliver either. So he's like, oh, well, I'm going to take a red shirt then. You guys can go figure it out. So we're getting to a point in college football, and I knew it was going to get here to where it is ruining college football. Like NIL is. There's no structure. They said here, no rules. Everybody, all these boosters can just join in. I mean, look at like what Oregon's doing right now with big time billionaire, the Nike guy. Like they're getting anybody that they want because the guy said unlimited NIL. So they're just grabbing players left and right. That's the problem. It's been a money game. We all know this. There was under the table paying before NIL even started, but it's getting to a point now to where it's with NIL. Kids are demanding more money now, and they know that they can. They're like, it's hard to give somebody $3 million in a handshake in a paper bag, but you can give it to them on a contract real easy. So now with NIL, all these kids want more money, and they're going to ask for more as the years go on, unless there's some sort of structure, unless there's some sort of rules, and nobody has laid out any ground rules still in year 3? So it's like, this is what you get. These are the situations you get with NIL when nobody wants to lay down any ground rules for anything. And that's it. Cover your ass. Like if you are a kid, and I will say this right now, if you are a kid wanting to go to a school, somebody promises you something, get it in writing on a contract. If you don't, do not go to that school.
Well, again, you can't have those conversations. I muted you, Ty, because your feedback was
Well,
bad.
I mean, you can't have those conversations. They do have those conversations, but when you go and you commit to the school and then
get something. Yeah.
Yeah. Give me something right now.
In the article, what's interesting too, because Kermati is the agent who I mentioned was 33 earlier. And I'm going to take a little bit of a jab here at, we've heard some horror stories from agents, but in the article from Pete Nakos, they were like, yeah, we kept asking about the $100,000. Then we went to 50 grand. We went to 10 grand a month. And then we said, hey, we'll do 50. If you have a contract signed for 100 grand, why are you negotiating?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you lose a lot of credibility when you're negotiating a contract that was signed. Now, maybe it was just like, look, I want to play here. I want to make this thing work. You promised me that. It was more of a promise. Now, there is some, and Brendan did say this, like, it's weird. I remember I would meet with my...
and I'll even say this. They shouldn't be talking to coaches anyway. Like, they should be talking to the...
No, the coach was not even interviewed for this. It was the collective, the NIL collective CEO and the agent. Those were the two that were interviewed about this entire situation.
Okay, well, since you can't do contracts, get it in email or text.
Well, and I think that's what they're probably gonna have to use. And again, those you could at least have a lawsuit with those, because I remember I have conversations with my professor from school. We would have conversations about ideas, about like a marketing idea or a company, and he would make me sign a piece of napkin saying like, "Hey, I won't take this idea." And basically, like if I were to take this idea, like that was binding enough to be like, "Hey, he signed this piece of napkin saying he wouldn't when we talked about it." And that's as little as it takes to make a legitimate agreement at times. Now, can you throw them out too? Look, we're getting way back into the legal stuff. But it's a very finicky situation.
If you're a good enough player and they want you, they will put something in writing. Whether I know that, like you said, no contracts can be signed, but you can always put something in writing.
Well, what about why have they considered a nil cap? You know what I mean? Like, why, almost like the NFL, they have a salary cap. You can't spend over this much. Like, what's the difference in college? Like, you have this amount of money. Like, you can spread it how you want. But you know what I mean? I'm just spitballing here that what you could possibly do to some guys making $4 million to where some guys making $300. I don't know. I'm just making,
Oh,
I'm just saying.
as much as the NCAA says that they care, they really don't.
Of course they don't.
So the other thing I was talking about too, Cal, you gotta dumb that down a little bit. Cal be popping. He's a lawyer. He popping stuff in here. I have no idea what the hell he's saying. The agent is 33, and not that age has a factor. I'm younger than Dave too, but I went to school for sports management. I thought it'd be cool to be an agent. And the one thing that I think the teacher, I hated her because she made that class a living hell. But she also knew that everybody thought it'd be cool to be an agent, so she made the class a living hell. Like, if you want to be here, you're gonna earn this shit. She also had favorites, but besides the point, it was the best thing that ever happened. I quit the class because I was like, this ain't for me. This lady's crazy, and it ended up being the best decision I ever made. But my point for that is that, like, I think we're seeing a lot of kids who thought it would be cool to be a sport agent, and unfortunately this is what's happening too. It's too big for itself, right? We don't have enough organization on that regards of it too. So we got poor agent, poor representation. We've heard about it on the Florida Gators side. I don't want to get too detailed because I don't know how much I can say about that, but it is an ugly area where it's all money grabbing, right? Everyone's just trying to just get their claws in as much as they possibly can. Now, this leads me to